Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to go over a couple clips from General Michael Langley, who is the head of U.S. military's African mission. And he's been talking a lot and giving a lot of interviews about their mission in Africa.
Back in 2007, when this was during the global war on terrorism, the percentage of terrorism, global percentage of terrorism that was resident on the African continent was 2%. 2%. 2% of the attacks for terrorism were on the continent of Africa. Fast forward to 2024, 2025. The global percentage of attacks under terrorism is 43% on the African continent.
From 2007, from 2% to 43%.
Measured by the metric of attacks in the name of jihad or name of Islamic extremism.
So the terrorism in Africa went from 2% to 47%. And let me just remind you, when did they start these missions? The United States first started their anti-terrorism mission, the first one is the Somalia operation, in 2003. So in 2003, they started anti-terrorism work. At that time, it was even less than 2%. He said 2007, it was 2%. That is when AFRICOM started. That's the first time they said, hey, terrorism in Africa is an issue, when it was at 2%. And that's when the United States started their mission. In 2005, they had another mission, TSCTP. But US also started Pan-Sahel initiative in 2002. So since the beginning of 2000s, they'd been operating there. In France, they started Operation Parhail in 2014 and Operation Sahel in 2013. And now, almost 50% of the world terrorism is in Africa. And now during that time, what has changed? That's my question. What has changed? Because at the end of the day, we Africans haven't changed. The politics haven't really changed. Nothing else has changed except that they started their anti-terrorism missions. And since they started their anti-terrorism missions, terrorism went from 2% to 47%. And now the general is saying that we need to do more. So there should be even more Western anti-terrorism missions. But if your anti-terrorism missions have only resulted in growing terrorism, why should we continue? But I want to show you another clip, because my point is that at the end of the day, this is the goal. The goal is more terrorism, not less. Let me show you something from another interview, what he said.
What would America, perhaps AFRICOM, be prepared to do? Would you be considering an ouster like we saw with Muammar Gaddafi in Libya? Because there's still many Africans who are yet to recover from that. If this is a bigger threat, as you say, in Burkina Faso, what is AFRICOM prepared to do about it?
We do indications and warnings. There's a number of activities that we do, and I will just go ahead and mention building institutional capacity. There's not going to be U.S. boots on the ground. Very, very small for exchange of ideas and training, exercises. Over time, that builds institutional capacity and capability in these armies. There, AFRICOM, we are working towards a burden sharing and a burden shift for their independent operations. That's our goal. We have the shared objectives because these same terrorist groups can threaten our homeland. So we're in concert. I was just in African Lion over in Morocco. A number of countries working together to be able to address.
Is Burkina Faso invited here today for this conference?
Yes. Yes.
Now, let me ask you something. Who are these people they are training? Who are these anti-governmental forces that they are training and giving operational support to? Well, these are the same people who ousted Muammar Gaddafi. They were anti-governmental forces meant to support ousting of Muammar Gaddafi. And how did that end? It ended with more terrorism. So they are doing the same thing over and over again. And they want us to expect that they want different results. Well, if everything you're doing has had a certain result and you are doing the same thing, how can you say that you want another result? That makes no sense to me. If me hitting you is hurting you, and I keep telling you that I'm hitting you because I want to save you, would you believe me? At one point, will you say, no, bro, like everything you're doing is hurting me, so maybe you should stop doing it? So maybe we need to go to pre-2000 situations, before 9/11, when there were no Western anti-terrorism officers or military forces on the continent. Because then we didn't have this issue. This started when you came here. This started when you started this small-scale training operations. That is when this madness started. And the only way this madness will end is when you start helping these anti-governmental small forces, when you start educating and training these people. That is the only way forward. Nothing else will do. And that's my point, is that this is by design. They knew that if they started this madness and they started training terrorists on our continent, that of course terrorism goes up. But they wanted us to believe, or they wanted our leaders to believe, that they were there to help them. And in a way they were, because our leaders, they don't really care about civilians, many of them. At the end of the day, they just want to stay in power. So they were eager to allow Western powers to do whatever they wanted on some part of our continent. But now it has gone beyond crazy. What will it be in another 20 years? Will it be 200% up our terrorism on the continent? If they continue like this, it will. And even in Somalia, I'm from Somalia, so even in Somalia, like the anti-terrorism operation I stated in the beginning started in 2003. And terrorism has been going up and up and up and up and up. Every year, by design, it's been going up. So, and the government in Somalia keeps doing the same thing. But the end result is that the Western powers cannot help you, Hasasha. They cannot help you. But they will never help you, because at the end of the day, the whole goal is to continue this madness. So, the only way forward is negotiation. The only way forward is to sit down and find internal solutions. Nothing else will do. The solutions, as we have seen, will not come from outside. But anyways, hope that you feel that if you did, please remember to share, subscribe, and like.